Hey guys, welcome to episode number 100. Yeah, we made it. Episode number 100. I've been meaning to film this one for quite a while, but I've been very busy, so my apologies there. I'd like to start off by thanking my subscribers. I've gotten quite a few new subscribers in the last few months, and I know I haven't been posting videos, so sorry for that, but I wanted to let you know that after this video, I'll be back to my regularly scheduled, video production schedule. I'm hoping to get back to 3 videos a week, and I've got some exciting news to give you towards the end of this video, so make sure you stay tuned for that. But for now, I want to use this opportunity, episode number 100, to talk a little bit about who I am, where I grew up, what I'm interested in, and some of the future projects that I have in store. So I want to start off with who I am. A lot of you know me as Greg Jones Online from my YouTube channel. I'm also on Turtle Forum as well. Fairly into the turtle hobby, but also into aquariums as well, and DIY projects. In my normal life, my name is Greg Jones, and I'm from Maine originally, born and raised in Maine, and I recently, within the last 5 years or so, moved to Massachusetts after graduating, and I work for a marketing company outside of Boston. So that's what I do, that's who I am, and I did want to talk a little bit about Maine, because that's really where I got my roots. That's really how I became interested in a lot of the hobbies that you watch on this channel. And so I wanted to tell a few stories from my childhood. I'm sure some of you or many of you can relate to them. Growing up, I grew up in a small town in Maine, on 100 acres in the woods on a little dirt road. It was an amazing place to grow up, because we just walked outside. My brother and sister and I walked outside, walked out the backyard, and it was just woods. It was just wilderness, and we had a lot of fun growing up in the woods. Nothing to worry about except maybe the coyotes. But one of my interests growing up was definitely herping. So looking for animals outdoors, we'd always look for frogs and toads and salamanders, and we'd be flipping over logs and rocks and looking for stuff all the time. It was just constant. And my dad would hand us 5-gallon buckets, and we'd use those, and we'd just dump our frogs that we find in the buckets as we were looking for animals. And that was like a daily or like a weekly activity growing up. So I'm fairly familiar with quite a few animals, especially the ones you can find outdoors. And turtles began to stick out to me, I believe, when we had a snapping turtle, a common snapping turtle, walk all the way up to our house. It was a pregnant female. Walked all the way up our driveway, a dirt driveway, and mind you, the nearest water was probably over a mile away. So this turtle had walked over a mile to come to our driveway to lay eggs for whatever reason. I have no idea why a snapping turtle would walk that far away from the water before laying eggs, but it might have been the first place she could find. So I was outdoors, and we saw this snapping turtle laying eggs in the side of our driveway, and so naturally we stood back, and we watched her dig her hole, and we left her alone, and we let her do her thing. And when she was done laying her eggs and covering them, we actually picked her up and put her in the back of the car and drove her down the road back to the water. because I wasn't quite sure. My dad wasn't quite sure if she was going to actually make it back to water. She probably would have been fine, but I'm sure laying eggs is a fairly stressful thing. So we did that for her, and what we did was we marked off, we staked out where her eggs were laid, and we put a little protective barrier around it. We didn't want any of the raccoons or the other wildlife to come by and dig it up. So that was fun, entertaining. A couple months went by, and we completely forgot about the eggs that were laid in the side of the driveway. To be honest with you, and one day when I was outside catching frogs, mind you, I was like 6 or 8 years old at this point. I didn't have a place to put my frog, and I couldn't find a bucket to put the frog in. So I went over to this little enclosure that we had made for the turtle eggs that were laid, and I put the frog in there. And lo and behold, it was just like really lucky timing. The eggs, the turtles, were actually hatching at that exact moment, and there were 2 or 3 turtles that had made it to the surface, and the rest were emerging. And so what we did was we carefully dug them out, very, very carefully excavated them, let them kind of come out on their own, and put them in a cardboard box. And I'll never forget the perfectly round ping pong ball shaped eggs hatching. Some of them had already hatched and the turtles were kind of moving around. Others were hatching right before my eyes, and I spent a whole afternoon just watching these eggs hatch, and it was awesome. I think only 1 or 2 of the eggs didn't end up hatching, so I guess the side of the driveway was a pretty good place to lay the eggs. So I guess the mother snapping turtle knew best. But in the following weeks and months, as it was starting to cool off, we kept the turtles in a 10-gallon tank, and there were probably about 20 or 25 of these baby turtles. They started off small, but they grew really fast. If anyone's kept baby turtles, they know how fast they grow. And this was, a situation where we hadn't quite done our research, and we didn't really know what we were getting ourselves into, bringing these baby turtles indoors. And I'd go outside every day, and I'd find some worms and cut them up and feed them to the baby turtles. And eventually, that became too much of a hassle, so we got some pellet food, some sticks, some turtle sticks from the pet store, and started feeding those. And we only had about 1 inch or 2 of water in this tank, and we kind of had it up at an angle so that there was some land area and some water area. We didn't know what kind of lighting they needed. We didn't really know anything about these turtles or what they required to have an appropriate habitat. And it became very apparent pretty fast that we couldn't take care of all of these baby turtles because there were just too many. They were growing too fast, and let's face it, they stunk after a while because we weren't able to care for them the way that they needed, especially with the water changes and stuff. So what we did was we dropped them off to a few streams in the area, some ponds, very slow moving water, and we kind of distributed them throughout the area before it got too cold out. So hopefully most of them or all of them survived the winter, but I'll never know. But that was my first encounter with turtles, and I think that just watching them hatch was the coolest thing, one of the coolest things that I've ever seen. So that's kind of where my interest for turtles originally came from, and I can't wait for these guys to get big enough to start breeding, because I really want to see how that turns out, and I'd love to watch these guys lay eggs and then watch those eggs hatch. So that's kind of the turtle story there. And there's a similar story for fish as well. You know, as you guys might recall, I do have the fish in the bedroom, and they're doing very well. I haven't shown them in quite a while, but here they are. I've got the Java mosses growing really nice there up on the 3D background. It's providing a lot of good areas for the fry to hide in. But these are wild type mollies. They're not the most interesting fish. You know, they're kind of plain in color, but they do have a little iridescence to them. But where my fish story started was actually very young. We had a 40 or a 45 gallon aquarium growing up as a child, and you know, I didn't pay too much attention to it at first, but as I got older, you know, I started to get more interest in the tank. My dad would do water changes every once in a while. I don't think my mom ever touched the tank, but my dad would do water changes every once in a while, and we'd get to go to the pet store every few years and pick out some fish. Yeah, it wasn't the most exciting tank, but it was interesting, and I wanted to learn more about the types of fish and why they could or couldn't be placed together. So that's kind of where my interest in fish started. And one time when we went to the pet store, we picked out a couple angelfish, and we only got two. They were the basic silver and black angelfish, the ones you see in every pet store, and we only got two of them. And it's impossible to tell the sex of an angelfish when they're small, but you know, we kept them for probably a year or two before they got large enough to start breeding. And you know, it was just kind of a coincidence that the two fish ended up being one male and one female, and they started laying eggs. And the first couple times they laid the eggs, you know, we didn't really think too much of it. But then one time they laid their eggs, they laid it on one of the filter pipes that we had in the tank, and that gave me the idea to remove that filter pipe with the eggs and try to raise those eggs. And so I read into angelfish a little bit and found out that I needed to start some brine shrimp. So I started you know, raising some brine shrimp to be able to feed to the babies when they hatched, and I got the eggs set up in a separate tank, a 10-gallon tank, and that's where multiple tank syndrome started to kick in. And anyone who keeps fish, anyone who has aquariums, has experienced multiple tank syndrome. And this is where the second you get a second tank, one tank is fine, anyone can manage one tank, but the second you get two tanks, then it's not very long after before you get 3 tanks, and then 4 tanks, and then it just kind of gets crazy. And so what happened was I was moderately successful the first time I tried to raise the eggs. I think a few of them survived. A lot of them died to fungus. But I learned as I went. So you know, a few weeks later they laid eggs again. And this time I had put a breeding slate in the tank. You know, they're still fighting off all of the other fish in the tank because it was a community tank. But that time when you know, I put the breeding slate into the tank, I was able to take that out immediately and do everything I needed to do to get those fish to hatch. And so the second time I attempted it, I had a very good hatch out rate. I had them growing very quickly on brine shrimp, and that's when I set up my third tank for Christmas one year. And I was probably, you know, 12 or 14 years old or so. I got a 30-gallon tank with a metal stand and a hood and everything you'd need to raise fish. And so I set that up in my room, and that's where I kept my baby angelfish. And it was probably about 30 or 40 at first, and then I raised another batch and another batch and another batch, and before you knew it, I had quite a few baby angelfish all in this one 30-gallon tank, and you know, at some point I figured I would you know, expand my tank collection, and I made a very rookie move by moving my 2 adult breeder angelfish into a 10-gallon tank, which is definitely too small for them. I didn't know it at the time. You know, I didn't really know a whole lot about the nitrogen cycle, and what ended up happening over the course of the next few weeks was I lost one of my adult angelfish, and my baby angels, as they started to grow, I started to lose them. So every morning I'd wake up and there'd be a dead fish. And I did water changes, but I just didn't keep up with it. I couldn't keep up with it because the tank was just way overloaded and those fish were growing way too fast. And you know, if you know angelfish, you know that they're very sensitive to ammonia and nitrates. So you know, some of them made it, but not a whole lot of them made it, and it was kind of a traumatizing experience to, you know, have all of this success initially with breeding fish, and then see all of that kind of fall apart and die before your eyes. And you know, it was one of those experiences that really you know, encouraged me to do my research. Just like the baby turtles, I started to realize that if I was going to keep something as a pet, I really needed to do my research before they came under my care, to make sure that I could give the very best to them. So that's where I got interested in angelfish, and I kept angelfish through college, or through high school rather. I couldn't really keep a tank in college, but after college, in my first apartment, I set up an aquarium tank rack, and that's one of the first videos I posted on my channel. Was a time-lapse video. It's been fairly popular. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. It's a time-lapse video of me putting up my aquarium tank rack, and that's for a bunch of 10-gallon tanks. I did some guppy breeding for a few years. But I had to take all of that down a few years ago when I moved out of that apartment. So, you know, at that point, I kind of stood back from the hobby. I didn't really have any tanks set up, but that's kind of where turtles came back into my life. And I figured that, you know, fish were okay, but turtles, I thought, would be a lot more exciting. So, you know, that's kind of where the idea came from. I started to do research into brackish water environments, and that's what led me to the diamondback terrapin here. So, you know, I've had a lot of fun with them over the years, and I look forward to continuing with these guys. And at some point, when I have a house in a basement, I'd love to get a stock tank set up. I'd love to put these guys in that stock tank, and then I'd love to put all of those wild type mollies in there with them. I think that would be a pretty cool environment, and that's also where the mangroves kind of come in, because they are also brackish water. Obviously these are being kept in fresh water, so are the mollies, so are the turtles, but I can put them all together, and I can keep it freshwater, or I can go brackish if I want to. I think I'm going to keep it freshwater as long as I can. But yeah, that's kind of how all of this ties together. So if you're wondering if there's a method to the madness, yes, there is. I've got this all kind of planned out. It's kind of a long-term plan, but I'm really looking forward to doing all that fun stuff. So those are my stories of growing up in Maine, and in my experience with fish and turtles, which are, you know, two of the focuses of this channel. I also spent my summers on the coast of Maine, and for those of you who have visited the coast of Maine on vacation in the summertime, you know how fun it can be. You know, because I love to herp in the woods. You know, it's a fairly natural transition for me to start tide pooling. And that's, you know, going out on the rocky coast and looking at all the tide pools and flipping rocks over and tearing seaweed out and looking for all kinds of animals and critters. And I was lucky enough that my mom is a marine biologist, and she actually runs an aquarium in the state of Maine. So, you know, I had access to all kinds of equipment, all kinds of nets, all kinds of, you know, fishing poles, and all kinds of fun stuff. And, you know, that's really how I grew up. I'm most comfortable standing knee deep in water, looking for, you know, lobsters or crabs or other animals. That's just how I grew up, and it's part of who I am, and it's a lot of fun. So definitely the coast of Maine has influenced me. You know, I love being outdoors. In terms of some other interests and hobbies that I have, obviously I've touched on aquariums and fish and turtles, and you guys know I love DIY projects. Any problem that I face, I know that there's a solution to, and I know that it's something that I can probably build myself. And I always take those sorts of things on as a challenge. You know, projects and inventions and little ways to do things. So obviously this stand and canopy was one large project a few years back, and I hope that I can move this into a house once I buy a house, but that might not be for another year or so. Other interests I have: science, biology, genetics. You know, it's no secret that you know, breeding guppies is quite a bit of genetics. You know, there's a lot of types of guppies, and there are a lot of different crosses you can do to come up with different outlooks, different phenotypes or genotypes of your animals. And I think the same is probably true of turtles as well. At least with the diamondback terrapin, you've got kind of the light blonde terrapins, and this is a good example of one of those. And some of my other terrapins that I've had in the past have been a darker color, so definitely, you know, different shades of colors, and a lot of cool crosses that can, you know, occur within any species. So you know, I'll definitely be tracking my males and my females and taking photos of them, and you know, once they do start laying eggs, you know, I'll be taking pictures of those as well. And you know, just like any good breeder, I'll hold back some of the more interesting results and breed those to other animals in the future. You know, with guppies, the great thing is you've got a new generation every, you know, 4 to 6 months or so. With turtles, obviously, you know, you've got to wait 3 or 4 years between generations, so it's a little bit slower of a process, but you know, I think it's something that can pay off in the end, be very rewarding. I've seen a lot of breeders have some really fun projects that they've been working on, so I look forward to getting into some of that stuff soon. But I'll start off simple. You know, I've got 4 females here and I've got 2 males, so that seems like a pretty good breeding group here for the concentric diamondback terrapin. And that's probably as many as I'll have for the present. Obviously, I don't have any room for any more right now, but I might expand my collection at a later point. I'd probably look at getting another subspecies of a terrapin, though, because I've really enjoyed the diamondback terrapin as a turtle, and I don't really have a huge interest in a lot of other turtles, so I'll probably stick with these guys and see where I can go with that. But other interests and hobbies: nature, hiking, kayaking, you know, anything outdoors interests me. So you know, I'd love to spend more time outdoors. I've been fairly busy as of late, and moving to Boston or moving to Massachusetts, there's not as much in the way of outdoors as there is in Maine, so I kind of miss some of that stuff, but I try to get outside as often as I can to enjoy that stuff as well. Some future projects: I've talked about a turtle breeding, and I've talked about setting up a fish room in the past, and I think, you know, those are 2 goals that I have once I have a house, once I have a basement, once I have some more space that I can work with. I'd love to get some of that stuff set up again. I know it's a lot of work, and there's there's some time and money involved in doing that stuff. But I look at it as a hobby, and a very rewarding hobby. And you know, I'll always keep the amount of money that I'm going to spend in mind. You know, I'd like to try to at least break even on my hobbies at some point. I don't want to spend a whole lot of money that I'm not going to get back. And I've seen a lot of people. I've done a lot of research into people setting up fish rooms, and some of them have made some mistakes. You know, in the past with heating each tank individually and racking up huge electric bills, or not insulating their room correctly and losing all of the heat that they're pumping into it. Or even having mold problems because there's no airflow through the space. So, you know, a lot of things to keep in mind while I go about planning that stuff. But I'm always looking at other people's projects and other things that people are doing to help guide me on some of those things. And they're a few years away. I haven't really shored up any plans in particular for species, except for these guys. I definitely know I'm keeping these guys. So that's what I know so far. You know, I might get back into angelfish. I might do guppies again. I might focus on some you know, varieties of mollies or swordtails or other live bearers. But who knows? I'm not really sure yet. I'll try to select a fish that's easy enough to breed, but also rewarding, and something that's you know, likely to sell to local pet stores. That's always key, is finding those pet stores that are willing to take your fish. So those are my future projects. You know, eventually, sometime down the road, I would love to build an aquaponics greenhouse. And if you don't know what aquaponics is, it's the combination of aquaculture and hydroponics. So it's raising fish, which is the aquaculture part, and raising vegetables, which is the hydroponics part. And how it works is, you know, you feed the fish, and the fish waste feeds the plants in the grow beds, and that water gets you know, purified and recycled back towards the fish. So you know, it's a very sustainable practice. It's something that can produce both fish to eat or to sell, and also vegetables. So you know, if I have the space, if it makes sense at any point in the future, especially if I have a large backyard and I have the freedom to you know, to build something out, I would love to build an aquaponics greenhouse at some point in the future. But I do live in the Northeast, and it does get very cold, so I would definitely need to come up with you know, a backup plan for the winter time. I don't want to, you know, have something that I have to tear down and set back up every year. You know, I'll have to figure out a happy medium there, so it's not too much additional work. I would love for it to be kind of autonomous at some point, but you know, those are you know, long-term plans there. So that's kind of, you know, a little bit about who I am, my story, my interests, you know, how I got into the hobby. You know, I hope you enjoyed. And I did promise you guys some information at the end of the video, and you know, whether you watched the whole video or you just clicked ahead, here it is. I'm going to be kicking off a week of DIY, so a DIY marathon. When I post my next video, when that video posts every single day for a week, 5 days in a row or 7 days in a row, I'm not quite sure. I'm going to post a video every day of a new DIY project. I might follow a few iterations of one project to get an idea through prototyping, so several prototypes of the same idea one day after another, to kind of see my thought process as it evolves to create you know, a DIY aquarium project. Or I might just have a new project every day for a week. So definitely look out for that. I'll kick that off with episode 101. And that episode 101, the next video that I post, I'm going to introduce a contest. It's going to be a DIY contest, and I'm going to ask you guys to showcase your best DIY project, the one project that you made yourself for your aquariums, for your turtles, for your fish, for your pets, that you're most proud of. And there'll be a lot more details in the next episode as to the requirements for that contest, and also the prizes. But we're coming up on the holiday season here, and I'd like to give back to the community and let you guys get involved, and hopefully spur you guys to make some videos as well. So definitely look forward to that coming up in the next episode. But until then, I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll be back to my regular schedule here of producing videos, and I hope you guys stay tuned. Alright guys, see you later.